I'm so confused by the Gollum game. As a Lord of the Rings fan, I'm intrigued, but I'm not sure I get it. Yeah, and the thing, I've actually been looking and trying to get a hold of them because I would love to get access to that game early to like actually play and try. Because man, it looks outrageous in so many ways. Like this is the trailer right now. The Gollum model's weird. The whole thing is a little weird, honestly. I get it. It's not easy to make like a super high fidelity model on par with the films, because like if we look up the video of what it looked like in the films, like look at what they were able to do in the film. Granted, this is a film, this isn't a video game, this is a film. They are not burdened with the same restrictions as a video game where you have to do it and render it in real time. However, this is what people remember, and this is how people know Smeagol and Gollum. And so to go from this to this is just a little jarring, you know? And plus they don't even look super similar. Like the proportions are slightly different. You know, it's just different. Think about how good the movies were and how long ago they were made. Oh yeah, the original were great. Yeah, I thought The Hobbit honestly got a bad rap. Clearly, they milked that for all it was worth. That thing should not have been 3 movies. 2, I think, was fair, but the third movie was bizarre. It was like 2 hours of fight sequences that never really went anywhere. But honestly, like, I thought the Hobbit trilogy, if you watched it as like one long movie, it's long, but it's pretty good. I enjoy it. It's a good time. However, the original trilogy was just outrageously good and looked very, very good. And even this, the compression that's being done here is very, very aggressive. But even this was 2012. It's wild. Do you feel old yet? 11 years ago is when The Hobbit came out. That's outrageous. Okay, maybe this is just me. I personally cannot stand when games use these weird, unique fonts. It makes it look way less premium. It makes it look like very, very amateur. And I don't know if that's just me, but it always drives me crazy when there's like a really cheap looking font that's used for subtitles. It's really, really strange. It's just an odd choice. It's like, if they just did like a basic, I don't even know, just like any basic font. Hell, I would take Times New Roman over this. This is just weird. I see this, I don't get more immersed because of the font choice, you know? At least they didn't use Papyrus. Looking at you, James Cameron. Oh yeah, Jesus. Good old Comic Sans. But man. Damn, Luke took that font personally. This looks like it was made by the Fable team back in the day. It's just, it does look very outdated. There's no way to twist it. And how much do they want for this? Do we know? I don't think they have it listed. Gollum game. I can't type Gollum today for some reason. How much do they want? $50. 50. A full 50. That gets a little tougher for me because, man, $50. And I think it already looks super outdated. Like if this launched back in 2020 on the PS4, I think people would not be that thrilled. But we're 3 years into this console generation.
Exploits of Smeagol was being developed, you were skeptical. Though vital to the story of Middle-earth's conflict with Sauron, he's largely a one-note antagonist who's present for as long as necessary throughout the books and no longer.
Okay, good. Weird.
At least that's what I thought going in. But my brief time with the Lord of the Rings, Gollum makes a solid first
Look at the artifacting around his mouth.
argument that the lost journey of the third Hobbit could be just as interesting as Frodo and Bilbo's. Much of the new story blends seamlessly with the well-established lore, but it's Smeagol's relationship with his suppressed alter
This is like that cat game Stray with Gollum skin. Dude, should that be my, should I put that take out there and just watch those Stray fans lose their minds? Dude, when I came out and I said, listen, it was so stupid. Like it was one of the dumbest things. I get sometimes, oh, Luke, sometimes I have L takes. I have Luke takes. Okay. Sometimes I have bad takes. Let's be real. I know that's shocking, but even I can admit it. Sometimes I say stupid stuff. One that I will stand by vociferously is my take on Stray. The game is super short, and it was available on day one on PlayStation Plus. You know what I said? You know the controversial thing I said? I said you should get it on PlayStation Plus, download it for free, and play it for the 3 hours there without having to pay for it. People like lost their minds. Like lost their mind. I kid you not, one of the top like upvoted comments on that video was somebody saying, so you're suggesting that we shouldn't financially support the developers. You realize this is a small team, like it's Team Luke. Like you realize that you're harming the studio. It's like, what are you talking about? They clearly signed a deal with PlayStation to get the game posted on the PlayStation Plus plan. Like, what are you talking about? What are you actually talking about? Like, I'm not saying go pirate the game. If I was saying that, yeah, I can totally see. If I was getting up there and I was like, oh, the game's really short, so just pirate it, steal the game and play it that way, then yeah, you have a right to be upset with me. I didn't say that though. I said this place where they officially signed a contract with Sony to make it available for free, you should play it there instead of paying whatever it was, like 30, 40 bucks for it. Because 40 bucks or 30 bucks, whatever it was, for 3 hours is a lot in the context of other games that are available for that amount, you know? But dude, like people lost their minds. That was one of those moments where I was just like, okay, I don't know if I'm being trolled right now. This might be like part of some psyop where they're messing with me and seeing if I freak out, like the trolls are poking and prodding. But I felt like I was taking crazy pills. Moving on.
That keeps the journey compelling. There's the possibility of following the footsteps of Middle-earth's greatest misfit and watching him duel himself. The body of the man is piloted by two minds, the naive and placid Smeagol and the selfish and malicious Gollum. Whenever he's guided to make a...
Okay, is anybody else like weirded out by this bowl cut? Is that weird to anybody else? It feels like if you cannot get the game's hair physics working better than this, you should just give them a haircut. Just get rid of the hair. You know? It's not working for me.
Choice, they're usually from either perspective. Does Smeagol answer a question honestly and earnestly, or does Gollum lie and insult the inquirer? The developers told me that these choices do add up.
Oh man. This is just like, this is one of those games where I honestly, like, I don't know why. And don't take this out of context, people who think that I'm like trying to be overly mean. Games like this make me feel actually bad for like poking and prodding. Cause like, just look at this. Look at the texture quality, the lighting quality, like, I get it. They put on screen in big bold letters, beta version, not final quality. I get that. But you're choosing to send this out. You're choosing to distribute this as an example of your game. And this looks like pre-alpha for most games. This looks like early stages. No part of this looks like it's ready to be shown to anybody. So like, the question is, are they just rushing this out, or is this honestly the best they can do? And if this is the best they can do, like, it feels like beating up on somebody like for their middle school project. Like, that's the same feeling I have. Like, if somebody asked me, hey, can you roast this game that was developed by a fifth grader? I would feel really bad doing it, because I'm like, no, the fifth grader really tried. You shouldn't expect him to do really good work. But in this case, this is made by like a team of adults, and it's presumably like a multi-million-dollar project that they're trying to sell you for $50. And that's where exactly Blackjack. That's where it becomes easier for me to poke and prod. Because this is just, I mean, come on. $50, come on. And even if somebody is like, for the record, even if somebody is like, well, Luke, graphics aren't everything. A game doesn't have to be graphically stunning to be worth playing. And that's true. However, there is such a thing as modern standards. And the modern standard of graphical fidelity for $50 is a lot higher than this. Okay? Especially if you choose to go with a more realistic art style and you choose to do third person perspective instead of 2D sprites or something. Like, you're choosing to do this, so you have to live up to that standard. If you go the route of 2D, like hand animated games, you've got to be ready to be compared to Spiritfarer, to Cuphead, to those handcrafted art games. And if you choose to go the route of like third person adventure 3D game, you've got to be prepared to be compared to the peers in your that you're going up against. And in this case, it's just not on par with other $50 titles, you know? It's just not. Brandon, they should have scrapped this and done cell shaded art style or something. That would honestly cover up most of this. And maybe honestly, maybe that's what they're trying to do, and it's just poorly implemented, so it just looks like a really terrible 3D game. But yeah, man, it's a weird choice. Chris, I've been eyeing Spiritfarer. Is it good? I just started it like impulsively on the Steam Deck like 2 days ago, so I'm not very far in. I've been playing it right before bed, so I'm only like an hour and a half in, but I've been really enjoying it. I've actually been pleasantly surprised. I don't know how complex it'll get or how much content is there, but judging by the reviews, people are very positive towards it. If there's anybody in chat who's played Spiritfarer, let us know. But I'm really liking it so far. I feel like robbed that I didn't find out about it sooner. But if your game has a bunch of graphical issues, if it's got weird artifacting, if it has really poor textures, why would I think that the rest of the game is going to be refined and polished? And honestly, like, the whole industry right now is built around instilling confidence in people. And if you can't instill confidence in people, like if you go with just a basic meter of confidence levels, if you start with never hearing of the developer, never hearing of anything, it's just a brand new announced game at the Game Awards, zero knowledge of it before, you're probably going to be somewhere over here. And the further along this you go, the higher the likelihood that you purchase the game at the end of the day and actually play it. One of the things that moves this needle is graphical fidelity. If the game is graphically really stunning, a lot of people are going to pay a lot more attention to it. And then if it comes out that early access previews are really, really positive, that's going to instill even more confidence. It's going to actually move this needle even further. And then, you know, other things that could move this needle would be something like, if you're saying you've never heard of the studio before, you're starting over here, right? But if it's coming from, say, Naughty Dog, all of a sudden, for a lot of people, this needle is going to be over here. Because they're like, oh, everything Naughty Dog touches, or Rockstar, or CD Projekt Red, or Bethesda, any one of these studios, it starts way higher, your confidence level. And then you hear, oh, it's super buggy, or with Redfall. Oh, this graph makes no sense. Where's the pie? Or if you ask, like with Redfall, the 30 FPS thing, they went from here because it's Arcane, but then Redfall announces 30 FPS only, and that confidence in the game drops. The needle moves. And the thing is, with a game like this Gollum Lord of the Rings, the truth of the matter is that it's just, I don't think the needle was ever very high for this because nobody really wanted it. But even if you're like, oh, I'll give it a shot, could be good. Seeing the way that the game looks now, the graphical fidelity that they're able to put forward is just not very confidence instilling. It's just, it is going to drop, and it's going to make people even less likely to do it. Sometimes, though, weirdly enough, I think there's some occasions where a game can actually, like, say this arrow breaks and spins past here, it can actually snap and swing all the way back up here because the game is seen as such a dumpster fire that people are interested in it. Like the day before, where it's almost like it gets so much negative press that it actually becomes a point of discussion and entertainment, and almost like a lol cow of games, you know, where it's so bad that it's good. Does that make sense? That could be a thing in some situations, I think. Like Abandoned's maybe the best example of this, where it's like torn apart. Everybody agrees this is like a scam and is terrible, but there's still people that are like, but it could be the next PT. And I guarantee you, if they made that thing available for sale, there would have been a lot of YouTubers and streamers and stuff buying that game and playing it on stream to see for themselves if it's that good or if it's actually something secret. you know? So I think that's the thing. Anyway, but looking at this, man, this is not doing it for me.
And eventually you'll find yourself in positions where one personality will dominate the conversation.
Yeah, I hate playing. A lot of people do it with like YouTubers and streamers where like King Cobra.
That's most definitely what's up.
King Cobra is a lol cow. People watch his stuff not because they honestly think that his cooking videos are informative or helpful. They watch it because it's so terrible that it's entertaining. And with video games, I think the same kind of thing can happen. It's less likely to happen, but it can happen.
On your preference of one over the other. This isn't a standard morality system as you've seen in games like Mass Effect, as not every choice Smeagol makes will keep him out of trouble. Sometimes it's the obsessive self-interest of Gollum that will keep him out of chains. This expresses itself in interesting ways while you explore the world too. In one chapter, you're escorted into a spooky keep somewhere in Mordor by an imposing orc. He walks back to his post and gives you strict orders to stand still and wait for a gong. A good Smeagol would have nervously waited, but as a shifty little Gollum, I attempted to escape.
Clever orc. The other one. He'll see us. We need to stow.
He's quite the climber, with the platforming feeling largely like the Uncharted variety of ledge grabbing, vine scaling, and acrobatic swing jumping. It was a little jarring at first to see him move so video gamely, considering my impression of the character established from books and movies, but after a while, his almost...
Yeah, see, like the look of the mud makes me think this is stylized, because this looks so weird. It looks so weird. Like, it looks like there's no textures at all. It looks like it's just a flat single color. But then, like, oh my God. Like, other parts of it look like they're trying to go more realistic, like the armor. So it makes me think that there's just, like, no textures on the floors. Like, this whole thing, like, actually breaks my brain. It looks like a clay model of the level that hasn't been, like, painted or anything.
In favor of stealth and trap laying. Combined...
So like this makes me think that it's not an art style or stylistic choice, because there's way more detail in this than just like a single color.
to lock you into a style of play that feels appropriate for the sort of creature who lives in the shadows of bigger, scarier things and lives to tell the tale. At the end of the above section, after traipsing over jagged scaffoldings and tiptoeing through laboratories and offices full of very important and conspiratorial-looking objects, I met a creeper named Candleman. His poise and intimidation factor made him feel right at home on the cliffs of Mount Doom, so I assumed this was a character from a book I'd missed, like the Silmarillion. I was corrected by Demiri Napide, lore master of the Daedalic development team, who assured me that he and several characters I had met in the roughly hour-long demo were creations for this story. Established characters like Gandalf the Grey make an appearance as well, and are written and performed in a way that feels spot on to the characters we know and love. Does all this make a cohesive experience?
And this is, like, again, this is the conflicting thing, because I can tell there's a lot of passion here. There are people doing this and working on this game that really care, that love this world and want to make the game great. But it just goes to show you, sometimes video games are not as simple as just having a handful of people that are really passionate and really good. Sometimes there's more pieces to the puzzle, and sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, it's about the team coming together with a single vision to figure something out, and to make something great. And if each individual piece isn't clicking together properly, you'll end up with something like this that's just really off-putting. You just look at it and it doesn't come together. Someone needs to get passionate about graphics. Well, Brandon, it might honestly be that it's just like a technical issue that they've run into that they can't seem to figure out how to fix. They might be in too deep, and that sucks. But sometimes I've been told, I've actually been reading a few books on game development to try and get a deeper understanding of this stuff. Some game design textbooks from college courses and stuff. And in those books, like, they describe the systems and the tool sets and things. And sometimes as they move between each individual package or set or build or whatever you want to call it, usually they'll set it, forget it, set it, lock it down, move on, set it, lock it down, move on. So they'll get the movement set and animation set, lock it down, move on. They'll get the combat, set it, lock it, move on, you know, and they'll just continue through the game like that. And it looks like they might have just gone in and locked down a really crappy version of the graphics system or something. I don't know. I don't know how you explain how this goes from like, here there's some textures on the walls, on the stones, but you go back just a little bit
That justifies
in the video, and like it's stunning how bad the level looks. Like, look at that. It's insane. So I don't know how that even happens. I have no idea. This is well above my pay grade. I have no idea. It's insane. Unfortunately, texture loading still exists. I don't know if it's texture loading though, because I haven't seen all of these like clay looking or dirt and muddy sections. None of it looks like texture loading, because normally if there's texture loading, for one, you'll see pop in when it eventually loads in, or two, you'll see parts of it loaded in and then other sections of textures not loaded in. So like this landing would be loaded, but then the wall maybe isn't loaded in yet until it pops in. Usually at least one texture has been loaded in, but in this case, not a single one of the textures has been loaded in.
But the Lord of the Rings,
like, come on, dude,
does at least make a good first impression.
Come on, dude. Look at this water.
Certain, but the Lord of the Rings,
like there's just no way to spin this other than that it looks like a remaster of a PS2 game. That's just, it is what it is. And like I said, graphics matter. I know it can be like annoying because it's like, oh, but games aren't all about graphics, but they do matter. Otherwise, why would studios put so much time, effort, and money into making their games look as good as possible? You know, like graphics matter. That water's 2D. You're not even joking. It is a bunch of 2D little sprites that are stitched on. This is going to be the game of the year, 2006. Yeah, it's just, and this is, as I've said a few times recently, often perception matters more than reality. And that's not me saying that like truth doesn't matter or anything. What I'm saying is that if the perception, like again, this game could be amazing. Let's just say hypothetically that the gameplay is tremendous. The world design's stunning. The narrative is actually really good, surprisingly, but graphically it's a disaster. The perception with the public will be that this game is ugly, that this game was lazily thrown together, that the devs are incompetent, blah, 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 all because the game looks terrible. Because that's the perception that lives on and is established on Reddit and in YouTube videos and streams and all this. That's what the game will be remembered for. And maybe in 5 years they can correct it. And maybe in 5 years it becomes a cult classic. That happens sometimes. I think that happened with like Days Gone, where a lot of people bashed that game at launch for good reason. It was very broken and pace was totally off. But the narrative became that Days Gone was a lackluster Sony exclusive by a team that got out of their depth. That became the narrative. That became the perception. And so that's all that really mattered for the success of Days Gone. Years later, it got a cult following, but it was too late. They lost out on the chance for a sequel. It was too late. It didn't really matter. And with this, same thing. It could be the case that this game ends up being amazing, but it doesn't really matter so long as the perception stays so negative. And I mean, this guy sounds like he's actually pretty positive towards the game. It sounds like he actually likes it. He said, Lord of the Rings, or he said that this has like a good first impression. What did he say? Come on.
into the well-worn territory. There's not enough in this demo to be certain, but the Lord of the Rings Gollum does at least make a good first impression, outlining a solid case.
Good first impression. Now he's the one that played it. It's so bizarre that it could actually feel that it actually feels fun. It's something you would see on the GameCube. If it's fun, I'll actually play this. I'm just so happy the Vita is still getting support. Oh, that's great. Man, it's yeah, he's largely a one-note antagonist. Have you actually read Lord of the Rings? Dude, this is why it's not worth saying anything in any YouTube videos. Like, even if you say something that you can defend, if you explain it within a sentence or two, you're gonna have people that are like, well, actually. Oh man, I don't know. It's, again, but this is kind of the established, like, this is so bizarre that it actually feels fun. It's bizarre because the perception is that it's going to be terrible because of what it looks like. Graphics matter. And when this is your oh, dude. When this is what you're selling your game on, you shouldn't be surprised when people are less likely to jump on it, you know?
He took my thing.